What's going on, guys? This is episode number 2 of I Just Want to Be Hikertrash. I'm your host, as always, Scott, or hell yeah, Jesus on the trail. Exciting episode. This is the second episode, and a lot of people say second's the best. And some people say, you know, if you're not first, you're last. Well, I've got first for you too, because this is the first interview. We've got the best of both worlds, second and first. I'm super pumped about the guy I'm going to be talking to today, Wesley Tils. I hiked the trail with this guy a little bit, so a little bit biased, but I think this guy truly embraces what it means to be hiker trash. Man, he even wrote a book called How I Became the King of Hiker Trash, and he'll tell you how you can kind of get your hands on that book. But this guy is an adventurer in the truest sense. I don't know if I said that twice, but if I said it before earlier on, we're going to roll with it because I mean it. That's why I said it twice. This guy is a thru-hiker. He finished his Triple Crown. He's also routed a few of his own hikes, one of them being the Great Plains route, which he'll kind of go into more detail. And he's got a crazy story. Starting off as a nerdy kid to professional boxer to a Mormon missionary, and he runs away from the missionary and jumps on the Pacific Crest Trail, and that's kind of he starts this adventuring sort of lifestyle. But we talk about some cool stuff. So stay tuned, listen. We talk about a Grizzly encounter where he jumps off a cliff. We talk about a lady asking how he avoids bats on the trail. That's an odd question. Man, there's so many goofs and gaffs and giggles galore. I'll let you guys be the judge of it. Super pumped, though. And I just want you to listen. So stay tuned. And in just 1 second, I'm going to be talking to my boy, Wes. All right, we are recording. Right here I have with us Wesley Tils. So, dude, when I met you, it was in 2016 on the Appalachian Trail. We met like in the Whites, I think right coming down Franconia Ridge. And you were going by Midwest then. What is your trail name now that you kind of go by?
Yeah, the one that kind of stuck, which happened probably a little bit after the halfway point of the AT, but ended up becoming Mega Man. And the reason for that being was I was talking to a guy by the name of Jetpack, and we were noticing this person's trail logs, and her name was Omega. And all of a sudden we put it together like, oh, shoot, like Mega, that's because she's southbounding Maine, ME for Maine and GA for Georgia. So we were talking about that, and then later on got to talking about video games, because when I was a kid, I was a big like retro gamer. I liked a lot of older games. And so then he kind of put it together, and at the same time I had a stress fracture, so I was hobbling along, and he's like, you know what your trail name should be? Mega Man, because you're going from Maine to Georgia, you're outpacing everyone with a broken foot, and you're a nerdy dude. I was like, I like that. So it kind of stuck, and yeah, it's been fun. But, yeah.
Well, kind of going off that quote unquote nerdy dude, I feel like your life there's been like a lot of like almost contradictions. Like you were very nerdy growing up, but then you're also like a professional boxer.
Yeah.
So where does this come from? This like need to like, I don't know, being into video games, but this need to like, okay, well I got to fight and I want to like prove myself that way.
Yeah. I think a lot of that for me came from kind of an inferiority complex, that at school and everything, I'm a sensitive person to begin with, and then I kind of felt definitely picked on at times. And so I enjoyed, and I was also kind of an adrenaline junkie. So I kind of put all that together and got into a lot of fights growing up, and found that I was good at it, that I never minded getting punched, and I hit really hard, and I was always aggressive. And so with that being like a continual theme in elementary to high school, eventually my parents were like, it's probably a good idea to get him someone to box and everything. So I found my way to a gym and got trained to be a pro fighter and everything. And yeah, even if you're a nerdy person, you still got testosterone, and still have that like need to see like where you fare against other men and everything. So that was really important for me. But I remember after about a year of doing it, it just like fighting quit becoming fun. There wasn't a rush. It kind of just became this like expectation. I go in and beat up people, break their jaw, and then go back home. It's just this like it just kind of lost the feeling to it. So I quit to do a big 180 and went back to the Mormon church that I grew up in. I grew up Mormon, as you know, and then became a Mormon missionary living in Northern California. So
Yeah, and that's kind of that is a crazy 180 that you did right there. And it was from that mission, right, where you first had your like experience of like a long distance hiking. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, as the story goes, I was the runaway missionary. So to add to the weirdness of that time frame, um, after 9 months of being a missionary, I decided that wasn't for me, and I kind of wanted to. I was feeling like it wasn't giving me the answers because I went out as a missionary for one to try to do good, which I felt like it was stifled due to the proselyting emphasis.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wanted to focus more on just doing good. And then the second thing was I wanted to find God, but I didn't know what God was or anything. So I grew up Mormon. I was like, well, I'll try this route because my parents claim that they know it's true. So I went and did that. And and it wasn't working. So then I had the strong feeling one day was I went to the Mormon temple and was trying to pray and fast, and which is like not eating food for a long time and trying to get like a revelation what I need to do. And I had the strong feeling that said, you feel most spiritually alive in the mountains, so go to the mountains. And I looked at a map of our mission area, and there was the Pacific Crest Trail on the eastern part right by Lake Tahoe. And the next day I woke up real early and I was supposed to work out and get my day ready, and I just couldn't do it. I sat there looking at the map, and my missionary companion came over and he's like, hey, you okay? I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna leave the mission. And he was like, all right, well, I hear you talking about it. I'll see if you actually do it. And so within a week, I threw away all my missionary clothes. I got really defiant, really bad towards our mission president, which is like the leader of the mission area, this old lawyer. I was very defiant against him, got a lot of trouble, posting things I shouldn't on Facebook, and flipping off other missionaries, just being a turd kind of in general. I planned to leave, and as I got ready to run away, I found out the church found out, and they called the police. And so the police and a bunch of Mormons were coming to catch me, but I got on my bike and escaped in the middle of the night, went to a girl's house who was anti-Mormon. She had a guy living with her who liked her and didn't like me, and she liked me. And so then I kind of put two and two together there, and I told him, like, you don't want me in the picture. If you give me a ride to South Lake Tahoe, I'll be out of the picture, and I'll give you my bike also. So I gave him my bike. He drove me to South Lake Tahoe, and I hiked 200 miles of the PCT before what I am pretty certain was arsenic poisoning from eating a crappy diet of just almonds and walnuts, which both have small amounts of arsenic. I was getting really nauseous and shitty and everything. So I got off on the Quincy-LaPorte Road and went back home. And then that stuck with me ever since then. It's like, I need to get back to the trail somehow. And so, that was back in 2014.
Yeah, and then 2016, obviously, you're Sobo, man, and or on the Appalachian Trail. And I had a great time hiking with you. We had how long did we hike together? Maybe like a month, or was it less than that? Or
it was about 700 miles. I feel like maybe I'm wrong on my numbers.
Dude, maybe no. That sounds about like we were with each other for a fair amount. It was you, me, and Vampire, and then I remember. Yeah, because we met coming down Franconia Ridge, and we got a ride to Lincoln, New Hampshire, and we got dropped off at McDonald's, dude. Do you remember what happened at the McDonald's?
I remember that guy that was there who was like a northbounder in his nice clothes, clean shaven, and all these people were like worshiping the ground he walks on, and you were just like staring at him like, what the fuck?
Well, this guy looked like he just was about to compete in a Tough Mudder, dude. Like he had this like super tight spandex stuff on. Didn't look like a thru-hiker at all. And like, we're just smelling so bad. Like I remember there's these teenagers like in front of us that like thought one of them had farted. Like they were just sniffing around. It was me, dude. Me or you, we both smelled so bad. They thought they were like making fun of each other for farting, but we just smelled so bad.
We were hiker trash back then and probably didn't even know it.
No, dude. Well, do you
Just
remember that
embrace
lady
the
also
trail.
cut us, dude? She cut us in line. And everyone's like, what? She cut us in line and
Really?
ordered before. Yeah, this lady cut us in line. And people were just, I was like looking at you, like, what? And these people kind of were
Yeah.
staring at like in disbelief. And I don't know if someone said something to her, but she found out that she cut us. And she's just like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then she still ordered in front of us. It was just like this kind of crazy. That was when I first felt like hiker trash, because like we smelled so bad. We were invisible to everybody. We just like were
We
very,
didn't exist.
yeah, exactly, man. It
Yeah.
was so funny.
Damn, that's really funny. Yeah, because I couldn't remember the details of the story, but I remember the feelings of it, feeling like invisible there. So thanks for the clarity and the reminder of the story. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I could go on a tangent on like our experience, but since the AT, you've gone on
Yeah.
like so many other adventures, like finishing your Triple Crown.
Mhm.
And then I know you did the Great Plains route, and then
Mhm.
you just finished the Triple O Trail.
Yeah.
And the last two were trails that you, or routes that you made up yourself, right?
Yeah. So the triple O less so one, because it was originally going to be more so of a route, but as time got closer and money got strict and everything, it ended up just being I did the three trails just all in a row.
Okay.
But yeah, the route was made and planned out, and it was going to be quite adventurous where there's also going to be canoeing and bike riding, but then also came the reality of how am I going to get all this stuff hauled around? Who's going
Yeah.
to slave away from me like that? But yeah, so that was that one. But the Great Plains route, which I've thought about renaming the Black Hills route, but it's yeah, 100% me. What's kind of funny too, I realized recently is I've been learning a lot about just public lands and different organizations that own them and everything. And at the time, I don't even think that it was occurring to me when I made the route, like if I was going through public or private land. And so I
Yeah.
wonder if I just like was breaking into people's property and stuff like that. But yeah, I got into some bad dog situations on that one because of going too close to people's yards and stuff. And that was kind of irritating. I developed quite a hatred for dogs on that trail because I was getting attacked a lot. But yeah.
Well, for people who don't know, where is that route? How long is it? And what does it like entail? Like where are you hiking through as far as like national parks or whatever?
Yeah. So it starts on the top of Devil's Tower in Wyoming. So just because I'm a turd like that, you have to climb up Devil's Tower if you want to be official. And so
I like it.
um yeah, and that was my first time doing any kind of rope climb, so that was kind of fun. Like my first time rappelling, so it was a unique experience going up Devil's Tower. But yeah, then from there you go through the Black Hills of Wyoming and then mainly South Dakota, joining up with the George S. Mickelson Trail, which is a rail trail so for bikers
Yeah.
that goes through the heart of the Black Hills, and then it gets off that and merges onto the Centennial Trail, which is the long distance trail in the Black Hills. It's I want to say 160 miles or something, going up to Bear Butte in the northern part of the Black Hills. But I did about 30 miles of that and then got off and then went through like Buffalo Gap National Grasslands, also like Wind Cave National Park, and then merged over to the Badlands and did going through the Badlands National Park. So in total, I want to say it was about 360 miles. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. A really good learning experience. I didn't really know too much about route finding, but I was pretty happy with a lot of the results. Yeah, the Badlands gave me some trouble. One thing, I didn't have a good map for it, and because of the elevation changes so frequently,
Yeah.
yeah, there were a lot of times where I was just cliffed out and either had to scramble down, which was always pretty sketchy, or walk long miles around it to get around. But yeah, yeah, that's
Well, the
kind of the
Badlands, that's
Great
pretty
Plains
gnarly
route.
terrain. Because so I live in Montana and my family's from Michigan. And so I've driven past the Badlands on 90 many times. And just like, seeing it and driving by, it just looks so crazy, like out of place, like all these plains, and all of a sudden you're just these gnarly rock formations, and the weather is not very good. I remember I tried to camp there and the winds were insane. So I can only imagine like having to hike through that. And I got lost in an Indian reservation on my way trying to find, because I was trying to try doing like back roads to get around, and I got lost. And so how did you do like resupplies? Because there's not much out there.
There isn't. So I had two resupplies. The first one, I can't remember the name of the town, but it was in the central part of the Black Hills, and I just walked right in. That one was pretty easy.
Nice.
The second one, I actually hitched in Rapid City, and got a resupply, and then hitched back and made into the Badlands. And yeah, it was. I had to compromise the route pretty good because of the COVID closure. And so the South Unit, a lot of it's owned by the reservation.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to go through the native reservation whenever they're having it closed due to COVID and everything. I didn't want to, provoke that at all. So
yeah, well, that's respectful. That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, so I know when we hiked together, we talked a lot about kind of both our stories. I was going through like a breakup and just terribly depressed, man. I was going through just like this my personal hell, and that's why I ended up splitting up from you guys and just having to do my own thing. And I remember you were really nihilistic. I don't know if you remember. I like Nietzsche, but I don't know if you quoted Nietzsche a lot, and you spoke about how before, when you're a Mormon mission trying to find God. And obviously Nietzsche has a thing about the whole death of God and what that means, and the secularism for society. Where are your thoughts now on all of that? Do we have meaning?
Do we have meaning? The amount of meaning I think we have is entitled to subjectivity. So everyone's individual meaning that we're and I remember us talking about that too, because there was a philosopher that you were into, kind of a newer one, who was talking about the idea of us being gods. And I think, in my opinion, there might be levels of being a god, but it's definitely not like I'm not omnipotent, omnipresent, or anything like that. But I'm a creator. We're all creators, and that's kind of, especially growing up Mormon, I see that as like a very deity-like ability, which is a very cool thing, and in a sense kind of a sacred ability to have to create stuff. And so I'm today, I see everyone's fate as what they kind of view their fate, and what they want to do in life, what their passion is and everything. I'm not too much a believer though of like a moral sense of like there's a heaven or hell, and either you make it or you don't, and you have to abide by certain rules or any kind of thing about that. I think that I lack information on that. Subjective purpose, I think it's important, because without it we can lose, like we have to create some form of value, or else life feels pretty meaningless. And while in the truest sense there's no true value in that, I think at the same time, I think the subjectivity still has importance to it, and we have to live according to our views and our life, and the people around us and their views, and just the world that we live in, I guess.
I think that's great. And I think what I'm impressed with by you is just your background in general, but also like the way when you say you're going to do something, and some of it's like crazy, outlandish, but then you actually do it, so you can back it up. Like didn't you climb Grand Teton without any ropes?
Or climbing. We went up in hiking shoes.
Yeah. I think that's really awesome, man. And so what drives you to do that, to push the envelope like that?
So that goes to my subjective meaning that I want my life to be full of experiences that give me that feeling of fulfillment. And a lot of it is not being too monotonous, not being too comfortable, but continually um, trying new things and opening my mind to new perspectives. And the guy who I hiked with on the Continental Divide Trail, his trail name was Captain Kirk. We hiked about 1,700 miles together before he took the Anaconda cutoff, and then I kept to the official. And after the trail, he lives in Bozeman, Montana, and he drove up, picked me up, and we drove down. And he was a climber, so he kind of talked me into it. And there were definitely times I was scared of while I was going up, but at the same time, it was really, really cool, really exciting. And yeah, I didn't know anything about the climbing scale. It was, I think, rated at 5.5. It was the upper Exum route, and that's not anything crazy, but for your first climb in 13,000 feet up in the air, it's a bit of a rush. But yeah, I really want to keep life flavorful. I want to make sure that my story is a unique one. That's not just I was a guy who went to become a lawyer and had a family and hope that my kids did something unique. Because it's like the people that I'm interested in are always unique people. If I'm reading about someone's biography, I don't want to read about the guy who just went on walks every morning and noticed a culver's being built in his town or something. Like, that's not too interesting. But like Peter Freuchen, the guy who saws off his leg and gets out of a ice cave using frozen feces. I mean, that's like crazy cool stories that make people go, what, are you serious? And that's what I want my life to be based around, is this one giant, like, what the hell is wrong with this guy, and things like that. So
Dude, I'm pretty sure I saw a post on Reddit or something about you, about somebody was talking about, yeah, how they had run into you and your crazy story. And I just remember reading that and like kind of laughing to myself. I was like, that's kind of crazy. I would love for someone to write about me on Reddit, just be some sort of mystery guy.
yeah.
But what are you up to now, man? Where are you at, and what's going on with you right now?
Yeah, so right now I'm in Missouri, where I was born and raised. I moved out of my parents' home finally in, I want to say it was July.
Mm-hmm.
I have a girlfriend, so that's kind of been a new experience, because and yeah.
So I'm losing you, man. I don't know if it's
Together,
the
and
yeah. So I lost you a little
yeah.
bit.
Okay.
You still
Yeah.
there? Yeah, I see you now. Yeah. So
Okay.
basically, I heard
Yeah,
you
I'm
moved out
living
of your
with,
parents' house
yeah,
recently, and now you have a girlfriend, which has been in.
apartment, yeah,
So
a little apartment with my girlfriend.
nice.
Yeah.
How long have you guys been together?
It's been about a year and a half now. So yeah.
And when did you? And I saw you also you published a book, man. I was checking it out on Amazon. What's that about, and how can people, you know, get it and read it?
Yeah, definitely. So it's called How I Became the King of Hikertrash. And at the time, there's no hard copy of it. If I had the money for it, there would be, but at the time, there's just the Kindle copy. But if you have the Kindle app at all on your phone, you can download it on there. And it's, I want to say, I think it's about 250 pages or so. But yeah, pretty much a Mormon missionary to becoming a hiker, the whole story of that, and then leads up pretty much to the ending where I get the Triple Crown and all the trials and things that happen during it. So it's just it's a pretty easy to write story. The main thing was trying to make sure that it was colorful and interesting, lots of metaphors and things like that. So that's been a fun experience, learning to try to be a writer, because I really like writing, but it's a lot of work too, and it's very hard, and sometimes I worry that I'm not an educated and well-spoken enough man to create something. But yeah, I'm hoping that by planting that one day that'll grow, and I can like make at least, I don't know, maybe $1,000 off of having a book. That'd be cool.
Well, I look forward to reading it. I honestly have been wanting to read it. I've so much so many books. I read at the same
Yeah.
time, so it's been tough. I need to sit down and finish a book and then move on. So, but I have been planning on reading that. And I think it's cool because when we were talking, I know about the trail, there's so many people that it seems like they either romanticize trail life, or then the other way, you have people who look on it as like way tougher than it actually is, like so crazy. And it's just kind of the in between. And I think hearing your perspective of that kind of more moderate, just like being truthful to what the trail actually is really important. I think that's neat to share to everybody.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's I mean that's a very true thing, is that I find a lot of people come back and they're going to dramatize it in one way or the other. And the trail is both a crazy and a calm thing at the same time. It's an adventure, and adventures have everything from long sections that are going to test your mental capacity, your mental strength. Like, can I hike through this very boring area for so long? Or just like torture areas, mosquitoes everywhere, injuries and things like that. But then at the same time, there's just sections where you're just spoiled with beauty and spoiled with the love of people. And so it kind of has everything. And I think that that's an important factor of trail life, is to roll with that and always know that if you're going through a rough time, there might be something cool popping up, and keeping that excitement for what's around the corner. I think that that's at the heart of every adventure, is the curiosity for what's the next bend, what's around the corner.
That's awesome, man. What's your coming up? What's your next adventure that you're working on?
Yeah. A lot of these.
I think I lost you for a second, so I didn't hear what you said, but.
Oh, okay.
What'd you say?
Yeah, but yeah, for my next adventure, it's a short one. I'm planning the Mattahey Trail. It's up in North Dakota. It's 144 miles, but it goes through Theodore Roosevelt National Park
Oh,
and
awesome, man.
Yeah, and Little Missouri National Grassland. So it looks like a pretty cool one. And the reason I wanted to do it is just to promote it more, because I feel like it's one that's off a lot of hikers' radars. And so, yeah, I want to do that. And then later on in the year, I haven't ever been up to Wisconsin or Michigan. And and then Minnesota, I've been very little up into. So I'm kind of thinking about doing the Superior Hiking Trail, just
Nice.
have a very easy spoiled time, and then go on just a road trip and go to Isle Royale National Park and go and check out the Upper Peninsula, especially because that's what I've heard the most about.
Well, that's where I'm from, Michigan.
Yeah.
Beautiful state. UP is. Pictured rocks up there, the Porcupine Mountains near the border of Wisconsin. So you'll have a great time, man. I've heard great things about the Superior Hiking Trail. I've heard the bugs are crazy, but that's nothing that you haven't experienced before.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the next year, so kind of the goal I have, like, for now, is to get 10,000 miles before I'm 30 years old of completed long distance trails. And so right now I think I'm at like 8,500 or so. And after those two, I should be like closer to like 8,900. And so then the next year, the trail that kicked my butt that I want to go back out and do successfully is the Pacific Northwest Trail. So I'm planning on in 2021, whenever I'm 29 years old, to finish that one up and do that in full. So that way that can be marked off. And it conquers two of the greatest fears I have at this point, which is grizzly bears and violent oceans, because that was a grizzly bear almost killed me, and the ocean almost killed me. So yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. So I remember that grizzly story. On the CDT, it was in Yellowstone. What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I was hiking on ahead. It's kind of funny how, like, I was thinking about recently how just little things, just like the butterfly effect kind of thing. One little thing happens, then a different scenario comes about. So I was hiking with Captain Kirk, and my headphones break. So I tell him to hike on ahead, I'll work on them. So I'm working on my headphones, they never get fixed. And as I make it up to the top of the climb, there's a grizzly bear up there. And so I get off the trail, it's a pretty open tundra or open exposed area. And so I'm walking on the side, and he starts acting weird. He's a young adult male, probably like 600, 700 pounds. I'm not a good weight guesser for bears, but he looked to be like a young adult, I would say, like not a big fat alpha male or anything, but pretty lean and athletic built. And and yeah, he started to bob his head and keep his head down and then like slowly walk towards me. And I actually got video of a little bit of that, but then like on one of the last videos I recorded, there's like this half second where like I'm kind of like and kind of like mumbling to myself, and then like turn it off, and that was like right as he charged, and so I was just like, oh shoot, I'm about to die, and so like getting off the camera to get ready to fight off a grizzly bear, and it was very ironic because there was a lot of significant things why that like how that happened because like for one, I was downplaying grizzlies. I remember making a post on Facebook very angry because everyone kept telling me I was gonna die from a grizzly if I like to watch out for the grizzlies, and I was just like, if you respect them, they'll respect you and all this stuff, and so I was very angry about it. Like grizzly attacks don't really happen that often, and I'll be fine. And to prove it, I won't have bear spray. And so I was passionately angry, which is often what gets me in trouble. And then the other thing was I would always joke and say I wanted to die fighting a grizzly bear. And so here was my chance, I could die right there, but then I wouldn't get the Triple Crown. But yeah, it was scary. It was terrifying. He charged at me and got maybe 10 feet from me. And I yelled and grabbed my hiker pole and got real big and screamed, and he stopped and hit his feet real hard and started huffing and just kind of bobbing his head around. And yeah, it was, and so then I'd back off a little bit and just keep yelling. But every time I looked away to make sure I wasn't going to trip on something, he charged me again and again. And and each time he'd get a little bit more confident, and it was a very uncomfortable feeling. And eventually, after maybe the 6th or 7th charge, he started acting bored. And at that point, I started getting away, and I got to a snowfield. And as I'm walking on the snowfield, I slip. I don't slip too hard, but I just kind of stumble. And he got real excited then, and then just immediately charged at me. And so I picked up a stone that I found next to the snow, and I lifted it up, and I figured, well, if I'm gonna die, I'll die fighting. So I scream at the top of my lungs, ready to hit this grizzly in the head. And sure enough, he gets scared, stops, turns, and tries to run. And then I think, well, it's probably a good idea if I chase him off then, don't give him any confidence. So I charge at him, and then he stops, realizing, wait a sec, I'm the king of these mountains here. This guy ain't shit. And he stops and gives me this kind of little sideways glare. And this voice in my head just yells, it's like, if you hit him, you're a dead man. And I'm standing above him, having his hot breath on my legs and looking down at him and just hearing that. And then I'm just like, I shouldn't do this. And so I back off, and he kind of backs off, and I get to the side of a cliff, and I jump down a snow wall, and I hike for about 30 minutes or so. And I thought I got away, and all of a sudden I hear this noise behind me, just branches breaking. And sure enough, there he is, and he has me cornered now. So I figured that was like the most sure in my life I've ever been that I was going to die, because I'm on this cliff. There's a grizzly now coming at me. And the voice in my head then told me, it's like, you have to jump. And I looked down, and it's a slope, but it's about a 50-foot fall with a bunch of chaussee broken stuff. And so I try to climb down, and I break and just fall. And so I fall a pretty good distance. But I managed to land mainly on my backpack as I'm rolling down. And once I make it down the ground, I look up, and there he is looking up or looking down at me up above me. And I'm in a area that's in between kind of an open swampy field and a forest to my left. And so I realized if I went through the forest, I can make it more technical and difficult for him compared to just going through the swamp, where I can probably go quicker, but I'm in plain sight and smell. So that's what I do. And sure enough, I make it away. I climb up the side of a cliff and catch up at the very end of the day to Captain Kirk, who decided to do 37 miles that day. So it was not till like 9:30 I caught up. And at that point I was in tears and everything. And he was like, man, where have you been? And I'm a little cut up and bloody from the fall. And I was like, oh man, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. And he looks at me, he's like, you were attacked by a grizzly. And I was like, yeah. And so after that, I bought some bear spray and had to deal with the rest of the trail with some paranoia, worrying about getting attacked by bears. But besides a few mother and cub ones that I encountered in Yellowstone or in a glacier, where I'd yell at them and they just run off, there wasn't really anything too bad. Just some good ones to give me a cold sweat and PTSD.
Well, I mean, that is crazy, man, because like that is very rare for that to happen. But it does. I've had a bear, nothing as crazy as what happened to you, but I know in the Shenandoahs, I had a bear that would not stop following me, throwing rocks, nothing scared him away. And that's just like such a like helpless feeling. And just knowing that this
Yeah,
powerful animal is like, could fucking easily kill you. And like, what are you going to
yeah,
do? You just got to fight, man. There's nothing you can do. And so having that realization is crazy. And I feel for you, man. That's a crazy experience.
yeah. But it's also, it's like a very spiritual and moving experience too, because to me the bear represented God, you know, because he was my God. He was my decider of life or death. He could kill me if he wanted to, so easy. Um and I could do nothing to him. So it was that feeling of powerlessness and predator and prey, and I was for once the prey. And I've never felt that real raw feeling before. So while on one aspect, to be honest, my main emotion was anger during all of it, like a frustration, like go away, and he won't go away. um, at the same time, there was this real humbling feeling of that I'm not nothing special. Like a grizzly bear can take me down easy. I'm still this weird bald ape thing that has to wear shoes or else my feet get hurt.
So what other sort of, is there any, I know every trail, you know, you learn something new. It's a different experience. Even I found it even when I did started over in the AT and redid the whole part, like it was just
Yeah.
completely different. What are some of the big takeaways you think you've had from these through hiking experiences?
Hmm. It's hard because there's so many like different little experiences that happen that um I mean, one thing that I think stands true on trails, because I think originally a lot of people go to the trails to get a break from humanity. Like they get so
Yeah.
disgusted with society and they need that time away from it. And it's often like you get away from the shitty stuff, but then you're just around. There's still shitty stuff on trail, but like there's so much more love. And that's been something that's been really monumental to me with hiking, is like the importance of a loving community and people that care about you and want to help you out and everything and share experience with you. It's finally like where I feel like I'm in a tribe or something, and like I belong in it, and that's a cool feeling. That also comes with like trail family. Like we were the Slug Brothers, and that was my first like trail family with a trail name, and it really really meant something to me. And still to this day, my best day in the AT was when we got our group name together.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. That was I will say like, yeah, the Slug Brothers for me is a very, I look back at that with very fondness. Like there's just so many great times. That was like one of the worst times of my life as far as like mentally, just the AT in 2016. But like you guys
Yeah,
really helped me through it. And I always wonder, I was like, if you would have caught up with me, would I have gotten off? And I don't know.
yeah,
And I don't think it even really matters, but I just really appreciate your guys' friendship and the camaraderie we had. And I do agree with you that I think,
definitely. Yeah, it was.
keep going. Sorry.
Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. What do you agree with me with?
Sorry, there's a little bit of a lag there. No, I was just gonna say I agree with you
Oh,
because the trail for me, it was, I thought I needed to get away from people. I thought that's what it was about, like getting away and having this like solo experience and finding myself. And what I really realized is these experiences don't really mean as much to me if they aren't shared with others, and that I
yeah,
really do need to be with people. And people, you know, I was kind of pessimistic about people, thinking that everyone, no one cares about anybody but themselves, really. But you do find that
yeah,
love on the trail, and people are just doing things for the sake of doing goodness and like bringing happiness to others.
yeah. And that's really what makes hiking so special, because I've been through some very pretty areas, but have been by myself for long periods of time, and that's kind of like it's just not as good. And then there's been areas I've been at which aren't as beautiful, but the people are amazing, and it just becomes one of the best memories I have. So I kind of had to accept at one point, put my ego aside, that I'm not just this like grizzled outdoorsy man who can be out there for years by himself and all this stuff. That after about 3 weeks or so of not seeing people, that's whenever I start losing it and start to talk to myself and make up characters. So, because that happened to me on the CDT in New
Yeah.
Mexico. I was by myself enough to where I was like having breakdowns on trail and wondering if I could do this whole hike. And once when I found somebody that could hike my pace and everything, I clenched on for dear life that we could hike together, so I didn't have to go through that again.
I feel that, man. I feel that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is like, I don't know if there's like many experiences where you reach that level of like aloneness and like you really get tired of yourself and even scared of yourself and don't
Yeah.
realize you don't know who you are. It's like, who
Yeah, it is terrifying. There's I think the thing that would like put chills down my spine was I would just start talking to myself to like um just occupy myself, and I would just make up characters like I do like Scooby and Shaggy or just things like that, just to have people that are engaged in conversation and I could laugh and stuff, because like laughing is very important to me. And I would laugh, and whenever I'd laugh at myself and then the quietness all around me in the desert, that's when I just sit there and like, oh god, there's nobody around, and then I just yell things just to test it out, like fuck yeah, really loud, just to see if anyone would yell anything back, and silence.
Yeah.
God, and it's just like, yeah, after day after day after day, you start tapping into a different part of you, and it's like a more psychotic part, and that was a very weird feeling. It kind of felt like a primitive version of me that was getting pulled out, and yeah, I was kind of thinking if I went through that whole through hike not hiking with anyone, I probably couldn't return back to society. I would have just been like unsuited from there on out. So people are important. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think what you just brought up there too is something I realized as well, is like I used to be so anti-society, and really society helps me to not be crazy, like keeps me together, keeps me in check and in line, because it's scary, man, if you don't know what you're doing and who you are. And so I think that's another cool thing that like we've been able to experience on trail, and the trail gives you.
Yeah, I think like one big crazy thing for me was like getting my triple crown, because that was in my life the best and worst moment at the same time. Because yeah, whenever I got it, it was like, damn, I did the big goal I had, and I did it well too. You know, like I went through a lot of crazy things and made it alive. But then it was like, but now what? And I originally wanted to just keep pushing to crazier things, and I realized I didn't have the money or sponsorship or anything to be able, like I wanted to row across the Atlantic Ocean in a rowboat, and it's like I don't have the means for that. And so and on top of that, if I kept running with it, like it's almost this like Superman feeling where it's like, oh, I lived through all this stuff, so I can live through that. And who's to say if I just keep pushing the envelope that eventually I'm going to find a situation that I'm not suited for, that just destroys me or makes me get destroyed in the worst way possible, a slow, painful suffering, death or something. So yeah, that was a big wake-up call for me. Was after the Triple Crown. I got a job in Washington with trail maintenance, did that for a bit, and then went back home and then said, I'm going to start 2019 the right way. If God's not going to tell me what to do anymore, because I felt very directed with regards to hiking the trails and how everything opened up for it. So I was like, I'm going to make my own destiny. So I'm going to ditch society. This is what hiking is amounted to. This is what like I've been training for. So I go down to Texas at Big Bend National Park, and within the first day of being down there, I'm in a hot spring, dipping half my body in the hot spring, or like hanging on a rock, and then having the Rio Grande pouring water on my legs. And as I try to pull myself up, I rip off a rock, and it's maybe like a 5-pound rock, but it's pointed, and the point hits my foot, immediately cuts a vein and just sprays everywhere. And so I get back up and do a tourniquet and start driving around and everything. I'm like, what am I going to do? And because I can't hike now, my foot's not working. I thought I broke my foot, and I was really stressed out. And so I went to my sister's house in Florida to recover. And during that time was just a very emotional time for me, because like I can't ditch society now. And it kind of, after a while, it was like maybe my indication that I'm running with it too much. I need to calm down, that I can't just go out and ditch society and stuff, that I'm still a creature trained in society. And if I did it, I'd probably get myself in a lot more trouble and probably die pretty quickly. So Yeah, that was a crazy thing. One happening was I had 4 rocks that were stuck in the foot, and that was the issue. Was
Ah,
I woke up one night with a really bad fever because everyone was like, "You need to go to the hospital." I'm like, "I don't have health insurance. I'm not going to do it." And so, after like a week of being sick and can't walk, all of a sudden I wake up just feeling like I need to vomit, and I go to the bathroom, and I see this black thing out hanging out of the open wound, and I grab it and I pull it, and it's a rock, and all of a sudden 3 other rocks just kind of ooze themselves out of my foot, and then all of a sudden I could walk again. And I was like, hey, I'm back to normal. So I was pretty happy about that. But it was definitely like, then I drove back home to Missouri, just kind of humbled and everything. And yeah, that was 2019, and 2019 was just a messy year of all kinds of like, yeah, just trying to force to do things when maybe it's not the time or place to do things, and then life just being like, hey, you need to slow down and just take it easier once in a while. So yeah.
well, I mean, and I think, how do you get over like, so first off, congrats on the Triple Crown. That's a
Yeah.
huge deal, and a lot of people I feel like don't truly understand and what it means to do a through hike and then achieve a Triple Crown even on top of just doing a through hike. And so, how do you kind of get by when people maybe don't give you the respect that you feel like you should have, or do you even feel that way, or?
I did for a while. There was definitely this like, and I guess I still have it to a degree where whenever I'm talking to people, and it's my first time talking to them, I tend to slip in that, oh, I've done through hikes and stuff, and
Yeah.
it's like it's definitely egotistical of me to do that, and I see myself doing that, and sometimes just like this crazy urge because it's like that was my everything. That was the best 3 years of my life, and hiking is the most important, wonderful thing to me, and so it was just like um yeah, that I had to really check myself with that, and realize like people aren't gonna get it, and that's okay. The main thing is that I have these experiences that I cherish, and there are also people that do get it, and so that's also important because I feel like the same can be said for people who go to a war, for instance, and they come back and they can unite a lot more with their comrades and people that they suffered with. Uniting with the common folk, it's like it's unfathomable to explain more. And through hiking is by no sense getting shot at or anything, though sometimes it can feel like that, and sometimes you do get shot at. But but yeah, it's a wild experience. And then that it's that camaraderie that you have on trail. Whenever you get off trail, you can talk to your friends and relate and everything. And I have 2 guys in Independence who I hiked a good chunk of the PCT with. So I've been hanging out with them a lot, and that's been really, really important for me to have people that I can just tell stories on trail about, and they get it, and then they share some back, and it's a good feeling.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
What's so we're kind of getting, we've been here for a little bit, but I do want to hear kind of what you think on the 3 trails as far as um, the most difficult for you. Because I remember we had a conversation about this, and I thought it was kind of interesting your point of view about your of all 3 trails.
Yeah. Yeah. So my order of like difficulty, it really depends a year. I think I'd agree with most people that on a regular year, the AT would be the toughest 1 mile per mile. But because I did the PCT in 2017 during the record high snow year at the time, and I got in the Sierras during the peak snow melt, so it was just floods everywhere. And then also the fires that I went through, which is yeah.
You actually hiked through them too, and everyone, I know people were told to get off
Yeah.
trail, and you powered through, man.
I wanted to make my hike pure, and I also felt lied to. I felt like they were lying about the extent of the fires, and I told everyone, I said, I'm going to find out how these fires are, and I'll be the judge of it. I'm not going to listen to a ranger. And I go in there, and with like the Crater Lake fire, it was complete horse shit. The ranger told me that the rim was on fire, and I was like, the rim is a giant bunch of rocks. How is that on fire? And she's like, yeah, it's on fire, so don't go over there. And so I went over there, and it was a clear, nice day. And I was like, well, shoot. So I snuck through that closure. And then the second fire on that trail, the Jefferson fire, that one was scary. Uh, Yeah, that was actually bad. We dipped down 1,700 feet into a valley of just fire and smoke, and not sure what's going to happen. And I had to wear a bandana to filter out the smoke. And then the North Peak fire was the last one, and that one wasn't too bad, just a little scary at times because you could see in the valley fires popping trees and getting closer. But yeah, so the PCT was the toughest one for me because of that. The CDT was the easiest one. There just wasn't a lot of elevation gain or loss. It was a 10% snow year in the San Juan Mountains, so relatively easy. Just post-holing was the main issue. Yeah, my average on that trail went up to 26 miles a day, so it was just easy to do a good pace, whereas on the AT, I think I finished with like a 16-mile pace. So yeah, the ranking would go, for me, it was PCT, AT, then CDT. As far as the ones I like the most, probably the same. The PCT is my favorite, the AT is my second favorite, and the CDT was my least favorite, though I liked all three of them a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I remember, so I did the Colorado Trail 2 summers ago, and a lot of that trail is on the CDT, but I was just surprised with how easy those miles came. It felt so good. And I also had like averaged like a marathon a day, and just felt so good getting those miles. So I'm looking forward to doing the CDT and PCT and just kind of seeing how, you can get those miles and not have to worry about tripping on roots or climbing up these random rocks like you do on the AT.
Yeah. What about your adventures? What's anything on your radar?
Yeah, well, so I'm still in school, and so that's the big thing that's been holding me back. And I was supposed to do the Tahoe Rim Trail this summer, but like school started early because of COVID, and I'm a guide in Estes Park, hiking guide in Estes Park, so I couldn't get off. So because I was a guide, I was able to do a lot of hiking, right? And so my biggest thing was just trying to plan these routes. And so I planned like a 48-mile route. It was supposed to be a 50-mile day, but I got caught in a thunderstorm above tree line. So I had to cut off trail and slide down a glacier to get away from the thunderstorm. And so then it was 48 miles, and I was dead from sprinting those 2 miles to get off out of the tree line. Or down below tree line. So I was like, I'm not going to figure out a way to get 2 more miles. Like, screw this, man. 48.4 miles enough. And then I did route a 51.4 mile day. And so I did that. And so my next plan is to do a 60-mile day. And I found a route in Idaho. And so I didn't end up doing it before the snow hit, but I think next summer, that's for sure something I want to do. And hopefully a smaller through hike. I've been looking for something similar to like Tahoe Rim Trail. So,
in Idaho, if you're going to do like a section of the Idaho Trail or like go through the Sawtooths or anything, or the
I'm actually not sure, but I had been looking at the Idaho Centennial Trail. I think that seems like a really cool trail, but I talked to Legend. I don't know if so he's the one who gave me this, I just messaged him on Instagram, and he like gave me this like route because he lives in Montana. I was like, oh, if anyone knows like a 60-mile route, he does. Cause I've been trying to route something out around here, but there's not as many trails. It's more like, you have these old fire roads and stuff, and it's just kind of hard for somebody who's not from the area to figure it out. And he gave me the 64 mile loop. And I don't remember where it's at. I haven't done enough research on it yet, but yeah, man, that's just kind of my goal. And then after I graduate, man, I'm looking to finish the Triple Crown. I don't know if I've been kind of eyeing maybe to try a calendar year Triple Crown. We'll see if I have the funds, but that's kind of been on my mind. But I don't know, man. I definitely got to get the Triple Crown before 30 is the big goal.
Good. Yeah. No, that's awesome. It's such a cool thing to me to see people going through that. Like my friend in Independence, Brady, he just did the AT last year. And,
nice.
And then he did the PCT the year that I did. And so he's going for the CDT in 2021. And I'm absolutely ecstatic for him to see if he'll make it and everything. I think he will. He's a great hiker. He always finds the best in it. But yeah, it's cool to see people go through that because there's something really cool about getting your Triple Crown. It's one of those things where it like feels like the most amazing thing and the most empty thing at the same time. Yeah. I guess like you felt that, after you finish a through hike, it's like, oh, that's so cool. And then you can't. I feel like the way I feel about through hike is like after you do a through hike, you have like before you did a through hike, you have no idea what like 2,000 plus miles is. And then after a through hike, you have no idea what you just did. Like you can kind of just tell stories, but you can't really explain it in one word except maybe like adventure, which is super broad of what doing a through hike actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can only, well, I've experienced a little bit, but I can only imagine after your Triple Crown, because at least I have something to look forward to as far as the other two trails. But I do remember feeling like, so, you know, in 2016, I did 1,300 miles, didn't finish. And I was just like feeling complete anguish after getting out the trail. Like my pride was shattered. I just was like, how could I not do this? And like, my goal is to get back on trail. And like that kind of consumed me until I got back on trail. But then 2018, when I restarted and did the whole trail, it was like more empty feeling. I was like, oh man, I'm sad. It just felt so empty. I finished, but now what? And so I can only imagine doing the Triple Crown, like how that's got to feel.
Yeah, it was I can tell you, like at the end, I finished with the guy Nimbles, who also got his triple, and it was a very calm finish. Like I got to the finish, and there he was, and I was like, "So I guess this is Canada." He's like, "Yeah, I guess so." And he rolls up a big fat joint, and we just sit there and smoke it, and just kind of look around and just think about it, and then we start walking. And I took some shoelaces and tied my Triple Crown to my head. And just started hiking along, and I think the weed and the feelings of actually achieving this and everything, like it all just started hitting, and all of a sudden I felt like a king. And I remember like just walking just very like erect and my head up and just feeling like a king. It was a weird, like, I didn't care how cringy or embarrassing I looked or anything. I was like, I just hiked 8,000 miles, fuck you all. And just people are laughing at me as I'm marching along, and then some guy in Waterton sees me and Nimbles and like points at us. He's like, "See, those are through hikers. You can tell by the tennis shoes that they have and how small their backpacks are." It's like, I guess that's what a true hiker is. But yeah, it was a pretty unreal feeling. Then whenever I hung out there for a bit to wait for Captain Kirk to pick me up. And while sitting there, this guy walks by and looks at my backpack. He's like, "So you're a trash hiker?" And I kind of like got offended. I was like, "What?" And he's like, "You're one of them trash hikers." And I realized, oh, he means hiker trash. And so I was just like, yeah. And he's like, "You should hike a Appalachian Trail up in Maine. It'll kick your butt, man." And he walks off, and I just kind of chuckled to myself. But it was. That was kind of that reminder of like, no one's gonna get it all what you just did. So,
no, yeah, it's so funny. It's I'm thinking about something that happened to me too, on the AT. I can't remember where. I think we were in the Roan Highlands or something, and this lady asked, "How long does this trail go?" And like she just meant like from the Roan Highlands or whatever, how long that was. I don't know what she was really asking. I don't just think she had an idea that she was on this like through hike. Like there's no loop to it. And I was like, "Oh, it goes to Maine." And she just like kind of rolled her eyes, like, "Ah, ha, ha." And I was like, "No, it actually goes to Maine, bro. I've been on this trail for like months. It goes to Maine."
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hike from Maine. Yeah. That's one of the funny parts of trail too. Some of those conversations that you had. I had an argument with a girl at Harper's Ferry who was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do a section of the 100-mile wilderness because it's the toughest part of the trail after all." And I'm like, I hate this, but it's one of the easier parts of Maine, like southern stuff. I'm like, well, I just hiked it. It's not that tough. And so we kind of roll back and forth before. And then like I asked her, I was like, because I sat down to eat some ice cream. I was like, "Well, do you know where the trail is in Harper's Ferry where I need to go?" And she's like, "Well, you need to follow a blaze, and a blaze is a 2x6 wide mark." I was just like, "What?" I just got up, like, all right, and just hiked off. I was like, "I'll find it."
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, people are funny.
They are very funny.
Yeah.
I also, that brings a memory. I could talk for hours about this, but I just remember there was a guy when I was on top of, what mountain is, Bear Mountain in New York. And he was telling me I wasn't on the trail. There's no way he's lived in this area. There's no way you're on the trail right now. And I was like, "Oh, I mean, I've just been following the trail. Like I'm on the trail. I know it goes this way." He's like, "There's no way you're on the Appalachian Trail right now. You're not on it." I was like, "Okay, well, I don't know what to tell you, man. I've been hiking the trail. I'm following the blazes. This is definitely the trail."
People, yeah. That me and Vampire had a funny experience there too. This lady came up to us and she was like, so you guys are hiking all the way down to Georgia? And we're like, yeah. She's like, what do you do about those flying things? And we're like, flying things? What do you mean? And she's like, you know those things that fly at night? And Vampire's like, you mean bats? And she's like, yeah, what do you do about those? And we're like, oh, well, if we have issues with that, we'll just have our tent up so they can't get in. And she's like, oh, see, that's smart. That's smart. I was like, what's wrong? There felt like a very, like, I don't know what was wrong with that area around Bear Mountain, but people said some goofy things.
Well, you're just so close to New York City, so I feel like just so many like city folk, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, dude, we've been talking for a while, so I don't know how long I'm gonna make these things. I don't want people to lose interest, but I would love to have you back, man. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, especially so early on. I think you have such a great story.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, it's great talking to you. It's been a good few years, so it's cool talking to you, hearing your voice and everything. I love all the Instagram.
I'm sorry, you're cutting out, man.
By the way, you always provide some good entertainment. I was just saying, I really like your Instagram stuff. I like following along, and yeah, you definitely provide a lot of laughs. So I like that. So thanks for that.
Well, I've been enjoying your stuff as well, and I've been really hoping that at some point you'll make a comic book about the trails, dude. Because I love
I really thought about it.
I love your drawings.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, how can people follow along your journeys to come and your previous journeys? And yeah,
definitely. So I mean, Instagram is the main platform I'm using right now. The name is Vagrant, Vagrant, then _ Viking 93. So Vagrant Viking 93. It's the guy who I was talking about who chopped his leg off and got out of ice cave with frozen poop. He's one of my ancestors, and his name's Peter Freuchen, and he was a Danish explorer in Greenland. And so he wrote a book called Vagrant Viking, and so I was inspired, and that's my Instagram name, Vagrant Viking. So that's the best way to follow me. I'm trying to get into YouTube stuff. I got a lot of footage that I still need to upload for the Triple O, and so I just have like one video on right now of the Great Plains route. But yeah, I'll be trying to put more stuff on there. I'm thinking about focusing a lot on like trail history stuff, like the geography, the prehistory, Native Americans, the American expansion stories, and then the creation of the trail, who created them. And so I'm thinking about trying to start creating video essays and doing things on that. I think that people who are nerdy enough about trails could be interested in that. So.
No, I think that's really cool. Yeah. And actually, I don't know if you follow Odie, who's the hiker yearbook guy. Well, maybe I'll hit you up with his Instagram, but he right now is in, I don't know if he's working for the ATC or whatever, but he's doing a bunch of things about the history of the Appalachian Trail and stuff, it looks like.
Cool.
So he'd be a cool guy to get in contact with about that, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. And is there any last words, anything you want to say, want people to know? Or I know it's kind of a tough question putting you on the spot, but.
Yeah. I guess if I could say anything, it's just for people to get the courage to make their lives interesting, that if they want to go and try and do something, to give it a go and see what happens. Because you never know, like good or bad, you'll get a story from it, you'll get an experience, and that's a lot more worthwhile long-term than just living with monotony. So be a little rebellious against society, go against the grain and do things that you actually want to do, and don't just be another worker, and find out where it takes you, because you never know. You could really have a cool life and die a happy person, feeling fulfilled. So that would be my advice to people.
I think that's excellent advice, man. Well, I'll sign off, dude, and we can talk after, but I'm just going to stop the recording.
All right, cool. Yeah, sweet.